In this video, I want to go over a browser known as the Iridium Browser. Now, before I show you how to install it, let me show you a little bit about the browser. Then I'll show you two ways that you can install it if you're using an Ubuntu or an Ubuntu derivative. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm using Ubuntu Mate. Now, the version I'm using on this laptop is version 20.04. Now, the Iridium browser is based on Chromium, but it has been modified to enhance the privacy of the user. Now, before I go on any further, if you've been looking up secure browsers, and it's not just on this website was updated May the 27th of 2020, which was not too long ago. It was this year. You'll see that it lists a lot of things that what makes browsers secure and what's the browsers that are not secured. Now, Firefox, they've rated as #1 on this particular website. Now, remember, this is kind of subjective, dependent upon the individual author and his or her experiences with browsers and modifying them to make them very secure. But they rated Firefox as #1, which has been modified and tweaked for privacy, not just the installation of Firefox and just leave it alone. Then the next one they put on their list is the Iridium browser. Now, it's been listed on multiple lists, not just this particular website. So since it is normally within the top 10 of multiple websites that I've come across, I thought, well, I'll show individuals how to use it and how to install it on their Linux system. Now, if you're using another operating system other than Linux, you can click this link here for download, and it will take you to the actual website of the developer. Now, I was going to make this video last week, but when I did, the website was down as of September the 16th, and that was around the time I started to make the video. The website was down. I don't know if it was hacked or if it was down by maintenance, and I thought that it could have been just the developers no longer developed this browser, but that's not the case. It's back up and working. However, each of these operating systems are not treated equally. Like if I click on Windows, as you can see, the version for Windows is of 2020 481. That's the version. And if I click on Mac, it's the new version as well, 2020 version 04. And if I click on all these others like Fedora, it's 2020 0481. So they're all equal, but I'm using an Ubuntu or Debian based system. So if I click here, as you can see, and they let you know that it's outdated. You can install that, and hopefully that the third-party PPA eventually, when they update it, it will update on your system. So if you do want to put this on your system, do note that it is the older version of the Iridium browser. Hopefully that they'll get a newer version. So what I did on my website is I took the Fedora, which has an RPM extension, and I used the Alien program and converted the RPM to a Debian file so that it works, so that I have the most current version. I'll show you that in just a moment. But if you're installing it from the third-party PPA, you just open up your terminal and you highlight everything that I have bolded here, put into your terminal, and I have illustrated steps so that you can see step by step how to enter to add the third-party PPA, and then to how to install it. Once you get the third-party PPA, you then update and then say sudo apt-get install the Iridium browser. Now, once you've installed it, let me minimize this. Once you've installed it, you can go to your internet folder. You may have to reboot if it's not shown in your menu. Click on the Iridium browser, and it will eventually open up. Now, it looks very similar to Chrome since it's based on Chromium. When I go through here, it's got the same features, the looks, not the same features, because it has been stripped of a lot of the Chrome features so that you're not sending or you're not retrieving data from Chrome. Now, before I go and talk a lot more about it, I do have a list, and it's a long list, but it's not even all the list, how the difference between Iridium and actually Chromium, since it's based off Chromium. A lot of things has been disabled in the background so that it doesn't phone home to Google. It tries to disable everything from all the Google promotions and all the Google hot words, and it's just about, you can read all of this. I'm not going to read all of that, but it has been stripped of a lot of things that Google has been known to invade people's privacy. And instead of using Google as the search engine, since we're trying to make this a very private browser, I set my search, the default search, to Quant. it says a search engine that respects your privacy. So I've made this my default search engine. When you go to settings down here, you can change your language. You can, like, if you don't want to display the trends on the home page, you can check this. Display news, if you don't want it at the bottom, you can check this. If you don't want it, you can make it strict for adult, moderate, none. Choose whichever, and then hit the save, and it lets you know up here successfully saved. And when I scroll down, you don't see the ads at the bottom. So when I use this as a search engine, it just searches, and it's not sending data back to Google. Now, if I show you by installing this by the third-party PPA, if you look, it is the older version. It's version 2019.04. It's the developer built, and it was basically built on Ubuntu 16.04. Now, like I said, I'm running version Ubuntu 20.04. So this is, as you can see here, I'm running it on Ubuntu 20.04 64-bit version. So if you do want to install that third-party PPA, and let me close this. If you do want to install that third-party PPA, then let me show you how you can disable it until eventually, if it does eventually update, you don't have to go back and install that. You go to your software and updates, and as eventually when it loads, and it will load in a moment, or it should. I'm hoping I clicked on it. There it is, kind of slow, running several things in the background. Locate the PPA that you've installed, and that's here. It's the downloads Iridium Browser.de, the deb stable. I'll uncheck that. Put in my password. Once I put my password in, I'll authenticate. Now I'm going to close this out. Now notice when I scroll down to the bottom, it's now unchecked. So if I go sudo apt-get update or update and then sudo apt-get upgrade, it's not going to check this particular third-party PPA. So when I hit close, it's going to ask me to reload. So it's going to update my cache, so that way it's not going to look at this particular website now, because it is older for Ubuntu. I'm going to show you how you can remove the Iridium browser, the older version, and install the newer version. Now, this is not a deb file from the company, and I didn't rename it because I didn't do anything to it other than using a program to take out the older version. Now, I haven't uninstalled it. It's still on my system, and it's still the older version. So let me go to my website, and I got how to remove it. So I'm going to remove the program from my system. So I right click, choose copy, I open up my terminal. Let me minimize this, put my terminal in the middle, paste. Now I got sudo apt-get remove the Iridium browser. I press the enter or return key, put my password in. It'll take a moment or two, and it will remove. It says, are you sure do you want to continue? I'll hit yes, press the enter key or the return key, and in a few moments it will remove the browser from my system. Now, as you can see here, it's removing the browser 2019.04.73, and for Ubuntu, that is old. For the other operating systems, it's newer. It's a little bit behind the Chromium version, but you got to remember, everything in Chromium, when it gets updated, it's not always for security, it's for some of their features. So when there's usually a privacy feature that's updated in Chromium, hopefully the creators of Iridium will go in there and fix that and update it. And it looks like they have. It looks like the Ubuntu and the Ubuntu derivatives and the Debian systems are the ones that were left behind. Now let me exit. Now the second way that you can install it on your system, other than using your terminal, like I said, I'm going to leave the PPA but unchecked on the system. Now if you want to remove that, you can go back into software and updates, and instead of unchecking it, check it and hit delete and remove it from your system. Let me scroll down to the second method for an Ubuntu system. Now here is the file that I originally downloaded. It's the RPM file. So if I click on it, I don't really care to download it. It's the RPM file that you can see in the browser link here. It's the Iridium 20.04.81, and it's for the PC LOS. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm not going to wait for it to load. I used the Alien program, and I converted the RPM file to a Debian file, so that way that I can install it by using my package installer. So let me go ahead and download this particular package. I put it in my Dropbox. Now this is where you normally preview. I don't have to log in. So if you're a visitor, you can say download, direct download, and it'll take a moment or two. And as you can see, it'll start downloading. It's 73.5 megabytes. And now it's finished. I open up to my downloads folder, which is here, and there is the deb file. So let me go and close this out, close this tab out, close this tab out, and let me minimize my system. But before I do, I'll minimize this browser. When I open up my package installer, I'm using JDebi on this particular system. You can install it whatever package installer that you have on your system. But before you close out your package installer, make sure that it says the same version's already installed so that you don't prematurely shut it down without it getting fully installed. So here's the deb file. I just double click. It opens up my JDebi on my system. And it's going to go through and check to make sure it has all the dependencies it needs to install. And before I install it on the internet here, as you can see, it's gone. Now, the older version said the Iridium Browser within my menu. When I install the newer versions, it's going to just say Iridium. It's going to remove the browser part. As you can see here, I converted the RPM package by using the Alien version 8.95. So if you've ever find an RPM file, you can use it to convert it to a deb file. Now, it's not going to always work, but a lot of times it will. So I click the install package, put in my username or my password. Once I put my password in, I click the authenticate button, and it will open up JDebi, which is the package installer, and it will go through and look for well, it had all the dependencies satisfied. It will go through and download the files that it needs. You can see, it's installing version 20.4.81. And that's for that particular operating system, but it's now converted to a deb file. So this is going to close this little small dialog box when it installs, but it will not close the package installer behind it. So you have to wait till it says, now it looks like it's complete. It says complete, but it says all dependencies are satisfied. Wait till that says same version installed before you close it. And there it is. So now you can reinstall the package or remove the package from your system. Now you don't have to keep this file in your system. You can go in there and say sudo apt-get remove the Iridium Browser, and it will remove it from your system so that you don't have to keep the deb file. Now if I go back into my menu, go to Internet, now it's there, it just says Iridium. It doesn't say Iridium Browser as it did before. So when I click onto it, it's going to open up, and because I had pre-installed some extensions here, they're going to already be installed because I had it previously installed. So let me make sure if I can say disable, or actually I want to remove them. Say remove it from the browser, remove it, and it's gone. It's asking me why I took it off. I'm going to show you how to install them. I'm going to say remove from browser, and I'm going to remove it. Now that it's going to ask me why I took it off, I'm just going to close. But I'll leave this one because I'll show you how to install the other two. Let me go to the About. And as you can see here, it's version 2020.04. It says the Fedora build because it was built for the RPM extension. Like I said, I used the Alien program and made it a deb file, so that way I have the most updated version of the Iridium browser, because it is a very secure browser. It's a very safe browser, and it's not contacting or sending any telemetry back to Google. And I would try to avoid, when you go through the settings, when it tries to contact Google, I would avoid logging in and pulling information or all your bookmarks from Google, because when you log in your Google account or your Gmail account, you're basically you're sending information from this particular browser to Google. So I would avoid that. So let me show you how you can install extensions. I don't recommend you, now a lot of people says, and that was on some websites that I read, that it said, if I scroll down, a lot of people said that there's a problem with the newer version trying to install the extensions from the Google Chrome Web Store. Well, remember, it's a Google Chrome Web Store. If they have a lot of the things blocked out from Google, that's one of the reasons why it is blocked out from the Google Chrome Web Store. But there's a way that you can manually install them on your system. Now, this says I installed these from the or the Chrome Web Store, the AdGuard ad blocker, the pop-up blocker, or the popper blocker, and that was with the older version. It did allow you to install by going to the Chrome Web Store and clicking onto them and install them. Now, if you're using the newer version, you can go to a website which is CRX for Chrome, search for the extension, and download it and manually install it on the Iridium browser. And I'll show you how to do that. To start with, I want to get the AdGuard ad blocker. So I'll click this and I'll say to download it. Let me click this button here. And in a few moments, I'll say go to extensions, and there it is. I don't want to install it on this particular browser because this is the Opera browser. Let me say to download it from here. I just want to download it. It looks like it was downloaded. Here it is. It's downloaded. No, that's the download before. So to download it, I don't want to install it. Let me actually open this up in the Iridium browser. Paste it. Now, this is what I should have been doing to start with, because I don't have an ad blocker, and you can see all these ads here. That's why I need an ad blocker to remove all these ads. So let me say go to this website, and I was doing that in my Opera browser. Now here's where I can download it. I can say save the file to my downloads folder, and I hit save, and they're actually going to that particular folder. So when I say open, they're in my download. That's the extension for the ad guard. So let me go ahead and go to my, close this out, go to where it says your more tools, click on where it says extension. Now before I can install extensions, I have to turn on the developer mode. So I click this, and now I'm able to take this particular browser and install, just drag that extension into it. So let me take this, and there is the Iridium browser. Let me maximize it, make sure I'm not trying to drag it in on my other browser, which is my Opera browser. So I grab this extension, I just drag it, drop it here, and it says read and change the data on your websites you visit, which is AdGuard. Remember, this is a privacy browser. It's trying to block these extensions, so you have to give it permission by saying add this extension. Now you can go through here and set up your AdGuard. In a few moments it'll load the filters. It's downloading the filters, and it's going to say thank you for installing AdGuard, as it normally would if you would install it through the web store. Say continue with an extension, set up what you want, filter out unknown counters, turn that on. You can turn this on however you want. Filter out social media widget filters, turn that on. Protection against phishing and malicious websites, I can turn that on. I don't want to participate in development. I don't want to send any information back. It says allow search ads and self-promotional websites. I'll turn that off. Now I can close this out, and I now have the ad guard. So let me go and download one more, which is my popper blocker, and I go ahead and close this out. When I go back to my here, close this out, I'll go to my popper blocker, copy this link here, copy this link address, come up here, put this here, and paste it. Now here's my popper blocker. As you can see here, the ads that was once on here is now gone because the ad blocker is blocking 8 particular ads from this website. So I go to download this. I'm going to put this extension, which is the popper blocker, and hit save. And now it's finished. I can say show in the folder, close this out, go to my downloads folder, and this is the popper blocker. That's the ad guard. I don't need to keep that anymore, so I can throw that away. I don't even need to keep the deb file anymore, so I can throw that away. Now this is the popper blocker, so I can go back to my extensions, go to my downloads. I just want to drag this extension here, and it's going to say it can read and change the data. This is the pop-up blocker to make it more private. So I add the extension. I say agree, and then you can test your pop-up blocker, because the ad blocker removes a lot of the pop-ups, but it does let some slip by sometimes. So the popper blocker works great. So I can say test the popper blocker, and it worked. I can say test the overlay, and it also works. So I can close these out. Now before I go any further and close these out, I can go to details of AdGuard ad blocker, and you can look at some of the features. It does have the newest version. It shows you the size. It shows you the ID. You can have it change some of the features to allow it in incognito mode, allow access to files, URLs, collect errors. I'm not going to turn on the collect errors, but you say allow access to file URLs. You can add that to remove ads. And for extension options, you can go here, and you can check some additional settings. You can go through the filters. For your general, it says allow search ads. That's not. For phishing and malware, that is enabled. Activate most appropriate filters automatically. That's updated or turned on. You can go through filters. and you can check what filters you want, like annoyances, security. No features enabled for security, you can enable those. And for those little annoyance websites that has those little annoying things on them, you can filter those out. Now sometimes this may mess up websites that you want, but you can come in there and whitelist those websites that it's messing up. You can choose different languages. You can come in here and make some custom settings. You can go like in stealth mode, your whitelist, your rules, miscellaneous, and then about. So with the ad guard, it makes the already private browser much more private. So when I close this now, I close this particular browser. Let me go ahead and close my downloads folder. I can delete this now. Close out my file manager, minimize my Opera browser, go to my internet. When I go to Iridium Browser, it's now opening up, and I set Quant as my home page or my search engine for my home page. Now, when you first open it, and I didn't let it show that, the newer version, when you go to Iridium, it's not contacting anywhere. So you don't have to worry about when you open your browser. It's just a blank browser. So you can hit the refresh button or the home button so that it will actually go to your home page. So that's how safe it is. When you actually load it, it's blank. When you hit the home button, I set the home for Quant, it doesn't immediately go out there and connect anywhere. It's not collecting data or sending anything to the internet until you tell it to. So that way, if I want to go back to my About Iridium, you can see here it's the version 20.04, just as the other browsers. So that way you've now got a very safe and secure browser to use on your system. And if you're using Chrome or Chromium, you'll be very familiar because this is based off of Chromium with a lot of features disabled and changed. So all I did is I didn't try to remake the file and rename it. All I did was took the newer versions, like for Fedora that has the RPMs, used the Alien program and converted it so that way that I had the most current version of Iridium working for Debian systems and Ubuntu based systems that install by the deb files. Now eventually, if there's a new version released for Ubuntu and the Debian systems, I've already got the PPA installed, the third-party PPA. I can go back to System Administration. I can go to Software and Updates. And remember, it takes a moment or two before that to load. And I can re-enable that. So that way it downloads the newer version and installs it on the system when I do an update. So I can go back to Software and Updates. I can go back and check that. And if I wanted to check that now to leave it there, so when there's a newer version, it will install the newer version on my system. So I can go back and check that, put the password in, and let it update the cache. But for right now, I'm not going to. That's just how to install the Iridium browser. And I'll leave this little message up there for the next few days. And then if I see that it's going to work, then I'll remove this little attention where it says that Iridium was down, the download section was down. I'll remove that if I notice over the next few days that it's working smoothly. But I did want to let people know that over the last week there were problems with the download section on that web page, and it could be because the other versions operating system, they're in the process of updating them. So over the next few days there may be an update, or at least I hope so, for the Ubuntu and Debian based systems. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you, and have a great day.